Sí. Buenos días a todos y todas. Es un verdadero honor para mí darles la bienvenida a este 8º Congreso Internacional sobre Traducción en los Servicios Públicos. Este congreso es un evento de suma importancia porque nos brinda la oportunidad de profundizar en un ámbito clave para la sociedad, la traducción en los ámbitos más cotidianos de nuestra vida. En un mundo cada vez más abierto, aunque desgraciadamente pueda parecer lo contrario, pero lleno de nuevos retos, es esencial que sigamos investigando y discutiendo sobre el tema que da nombre al Congreso, ya que la calidad de los servicios públicos que recibimos está directamente relacionada con la calidad que los buenos profesionales de la traducción nos puedan ofrecer en nuestro día a día. Igualmente, es necesario que seamos capaces de identificar y abordar los desafíos que surgen en este campo, así como también de desarrollar nuevas técnicas y herramientas para mejorar la eficiencia y la efectividad de la traducción orientada hacia esos innumerables servicios públicos. En la Universidad de Alcalá llevamos muchos años reconociendo la importancia de la traducción en el ámbito público y estamos comprometidos a contribuir a su desarrollo. En este sentido, el grupo de investigación FITISPOS está llevando a cabo investigaciones innovadoras y transformadoras para mejorar la calidad de la traducción en los servicios públicos y estamos muy orgullosos de contar con ellos como parte de nuestra comunidad académica. Muchas gracias a Carmen Valero y al resto del equipo por todos estos años de trabajo que culminan no solo con esta serie de congresos internacionales, sino que, además, a esto hay que añadir todas vuestras publicaciones, participaciones en proyectos, actividades formativas, etcétera, que dan cuenta de las altas capacidades con las que contáis. Por supuesto, quiero agradecer a todos los participantes por su presencia en este congreso y por compartir sus conocimientos y experiencias en este marco incomparable que es la Universidad de Alcalá. También quiero agradecer a los organizadores y diversos comités por su arduo trabajo en la organización de este evento y, por supuesto, agradezco a todos los plenarios por su participación y por enriquecer nuestras discusiones con sus valiosas perspectivas. Allow me some words in English to especially thank the presence of Mr. Christos Ellinides, Acting Director-General of the Directorate-General for Translation of the European Commission, who honors us with his presence at this conference. Dear Mr. Ellinides, my warmest welcome to the University of Alcalá, one of the only 5 universities in the world declared by UNESCO a World Heritage Site. Precisely this year, we are commemorating the 25th anniversary of this recognition. Again, thank you for being with us. Lastly, I finish my intervention wishing you a pleasant stay at our university and in the city of Alcalá, and hoping that this conference is an enriching and inspiring experience for all of you. Thank you very much. I was brief. I promised I was going to be brief, so I was brief. Así que, en nombre de nuestro rector, el profesor doctor don José Vicente Saz, declaro inaugurado el 8º Congreso Internacional sobre Traducción en los Servicios Públicos. Y ahora tienen ustedes la conferencia plenaria.
Ahora unas few words.
A few words from Carmen Valero, sorry.
Yeah, good morning. Sorry, yeah, I will also be brief and I will speak in Spanish, so you know that we have interpreting, so in case you have problems, yes. Okay. Well, yes, I will also be very brief. So, quiero comenzar por agradecer a los presentes, por todos los que estáis aquí, que son los que hacéis posible el Congreso. Pero quiero también agradecer a los patrocinadores que nos han estado ayudando y nos siguen colaborando con nosotros. Y en especial quiero comenzar por la Comisión Europea, porque a través de la Dirección-General de Traducción cuyo director general luego va a hablar, ha sido posible, ¿no?, organizar este Translation European Workshop que tendrá lugar mañana, pero que está conectado con hoy. También quiero mencionar el apoyo de CIUTI, que es la Asociación Internacional de Institutos Universitarios con Programas de Traducción e Interpretación, y el apoyo de organizaciones interesantes e importantes para nosotros en el campo en el que trabajamos, como son Critical Link y EMSIT, y también de otras organizaciones ONGs, y también de organismos civiles y públicos y privados, ¿no? Pero también, por ejemplo, quiero mencionar a las ONGs ACEM, ACNUR, Translation Without Borders o Global World, y también, ¿por qué no?, el apoyo de la Universidad de Alcalá que nos acoge aquí, que, como bien ha mencionado nuestro vicerrector, es fundamental, si no, no sería posible. Nuestro departamento de Filología Moderna, y pertenezco al departamento de Filología Moderna, y dentro del departamento quiero agradecer especialmente a todos los profesores que nos apoyan y a los colaboradores, y especialmente al grupo de alumnos de doctorandos y de los alumnos de nuestros 2 másteres, del máster en Comunicación Intercultural, Traducción e Interpretación en los Servicios Públicos, y el máster de Interpretación de Conferencias orientado a los negocios, porque son ellos el germen del futuro y cada vez vemos cómo hay más interés en este ámbito en el que llevamos años trabajando. Es verdad que en cada uno de los congresos, este es el 8º congreso, y cada uno de los congresos hemos intentado conectar con la realidad del momento, trabajando en el contexto de migración, refugio, el multilingüismo, con aquellas lenguas que no son propias de la comisión. Ese es nuestro ámbito de trabajo, como bien conocen. Y por eso el tema que elegimos en esta ocasión es la traducción y la interpretación en los servicios públicos en transición. Porque, sin duda, hablar de transición o hablar de sociedades en transición es hablar de la traducción en los servicios públicos, evidentemente, porque son lenguas y culturas con las que nosotros tenemos que trabajar y con las que tenemos que convivir, ¿no? Son momentos convulsos, día a día no los están recordando, pero bueno, es cierto, y vivimos en esa sensación de permanente cambio y de fragilidad y vulnerabilidad, y quizá también comprobando cada día que no somos autosuficientes, ni como personas, ni como países, ni como organizaciones, sino que bien somos interdependientes. Así que, en este contexto, esperamos que al menos en estos 2 días de congreso y de intercambio, no solo en las comunicaciones y en las plenarias, y en los pósters que vais a poder ver, sino también, sobre todo, en las conversaciones, en los cafés, en los pasillos, paseando por la ciudad, ¿no? Y que haya realmente un flujo de interés e información y avance. Y yo con esto, lo único, ya solamente quiero dar la voz a los ponentes, que son los que estáis aquí, y convertiros en protagonistas, e invitaros, sobre todo, a visitar nuestra ciudad, a divertiros en estos 2 días entre todos, o sea, trabajando en grupo, que es realmente el tema que más nos une, el trabajo en equipo. Y dicho esto, yo ya agradezco la presencia de los que estéis aquí, y sí que vamos a dar ya paso a nuestra conferencia plenaria. Gracias. So, Mr. Christos Ellinides, you have. Well, before he starts, let me just a few words. Mr. Christos Ellinides es, como saben, el actual director general en funciones de la Dirección General de Traducción de la Comisión Europea. Empezó su trayectoria en la Comisión Europea en el año 2006 como director de Soluciones y Servicios Digitales Corporativos, y posteriormente fue nombrado director general adjunto de la Dirección General de Traducción. Ingeniero de profesión, especialista en tecnologías de la información. Antes de unirse a la Comisión Europea, Mr. Christos Ellinides ocupó puestos y cargos de responsabilidad como director ejecutivo y también como director de información en múltiples organizaciones con una gran presencia internacional, y es miembro activo en organismos profesionales. Gracias, Mr. Ellinides. Thank you for being here, and yours is the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carmen. I don't know if I can be heard yet. No? Maybe I try again? Yes, now it's working. So, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Señoras y señores, buenos días. It is really a privilege for me to be here in Alcalá addressing such a diverse and prestigious audience, I suppose also online. First, I'd like to start by thanking the interpreters and ask for their forgiveness, because sometimes I get off script and my assistant always blames me. Don't get off script, because interpreters hate you when you do that. But I also have to say that here at the University of Alcalá, I had the opportunity last night to follow a guided tour, and it is really an intimidating university, and so prestigious and impressive what I have seen also, and what has been described by the tour guide that we had. So it is a World Heritage Site supported by UNESCO, recognized for its historical contribution to literature and science. And the beauty of the buildings and the architecture is beyond, I think, what I expected to see when I came in last night. But here with you for a 3-day conference, already started yesterday, on public service, translation, and interpretation, with speakers from all over the world at the top of the specialties in a fascinating professional context of linguists. I would like to sincerely commend and thank the organizers for putting together such a rigid and varied program, from healthcare to migration and asylum, professional training, and language technology. And tomorrow, we will have the opportunity to attend a workshop within the context of DGT's ongoing Translation Europe workshops, which will deal with teamwork in crisis and emergency conditions and situations, exchanging good practices, creating a community of interest, and boosting cooperation, so much needed these days. I just wish I could attend all the presentations and the discussions. The wealth of sessions organized during this conference shows how the language profession permeates all areas of public life and is crucial to European public services in the very broadest sense. Dear professors, directors of services, professionals, and students, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming out of a long and hard winter. Europe still has to battle against multiple challenges. The energy crisis, high inflation, continuous rising cost of living that we all feel in our pockets, financial stagnation, which we have been experiencing for the last couple of years, is continuing in 23, and the forecasts remain for 24 the same. And the continuing and devastating war in Ukraine. Here in Alcalá this morning, I got up and the spring sun reminds us that we should still persevere for bright and sunny times ahead. We shall not stop embracing our common European values and common European identity. But in Ukraine, right in the front yard of Europe, there is still snow on the ground. Young men and women are in active combat, and countless civilians are suffering and dying, often in their own homes. We will never cease to support the government and people of Ukraine as they battle for their freedom and their democratic values, which are the same as ours. We are with them too in our daily work at the European Commission, responding to the political fallout by working at full speed on a wide range of unprecedented and resolute measures to fund emergency support for Ukraine, to issue financial and economic sanctions. We have already imposed 10 such sanction packages, and we will not stop, to secure our energy supplies and reduce our dependence on gas imports from Russia, and to create, of course, a climate-friendly, energy-efficient, and secure future of Europe. The European Union is our home, and we will continue to safeguard it with vigilance and resilience. We will also continue to mend and invest in areas we can do better, like revived financial management approaches, like revitalized green initiatives, and like an energy retrofit. And in translation, we have also been rewiring our own house in the Directorate-General for Translation, DGT. Today, I would like to explain why we must rewire translation in the European Commission at least, how we are doing it, how much we have achieved so far, and what still needs to be rewired. During the last 2 years, 2021 and 2022, we translated record volume of pages for the Commission, and for some years now, demand for translation continues to grow. For us, translation is not a luxury. It's not a nice to have. It is essential to the very nature of the European Union, reflecting the respect for linguistic and cultural diversity, but also facilitating a democratic, transparent process. To adopt a piece of legislation or policy, the Commission must publish all 24 language versions of that policy, of that decision. It is fundamental to the European Union's decision-making process. This is not merely a legal obligation. The founding fathers of the European Union took a conscious decision that all citizens must be able to read the laws and find information about the Union in their own language. And this was the first decision they made. That's why we talk about the number 1 regulation of the community or economic community at the time was related to language. We also want to facilitate effective communication with all European citizens by removing any language barriers. By removing these barriers, we will be able to confront extreme nationalism and the increasing spread that we are sensing in Europe today of populism. Communication is more important than ever because we have reached a point where citizens are more critical at the European or of the European Union. Euroscepticism is very much present. Deliberate, malevolent misinformation and manipulation of truths is a clear and present threat to our democratic process in the various member states of Europe. So, we must act to identify, challenge, and refute all material instances of misinformation, promptly and in all languages. Our job is also to ensure that people's voices are heard and that they get the chance to contribute to the decision-making process and that they can understand and trust the information we provide. Why did we need to rewire translation? the importance of our role makes it even more essential that we remain on top of our game. We need to make sure that our organization, systems, and procedures remain fit for purpose. And that's why we need to rewire. It has been an ongoing process over the past few years, triggered by three main drivers of change: socioeconomic and political change that we are experiencing constantly, digital transformation in the profession that you all are aware of, and the climate change. We are all aware of the socioeconomic changes stemming from the multiple crises of recent years and resulting unemployment, government budgets and healthcare systems under pressure, migration, and much-needed rescue programs. I don't need to remind anyone here about the impact of all these factors on public services. You are also, no doubt, very familiar with the second driver, the ongoing, constant digital transformation of the profession. Like many other areas of work and life, the world of translation is changing fast, thanks to technology. Ours is one of the many professions affected by machine learning and artificial intelligence. I will come back to that, with neural network technologies producing better results than previous technological models. Neural machine technologies have been a real game changer in the translation profession since they came first around 2016. The third major driver of change in public services is climate change. The EU is leading the call for faster action to minimize greenhouse gas emissions, reduce global warming, and decarbonize our economies. We need global and systematic action, but change also needs to start at home. A few months ago, the European Commission adopted an action plan on greening the Commission, which charts and paves the way for the Commission to become climate neutral by 2030. All departments in the Commission must report the carbon emissions of their operations, reduce their office space, and reduce generally their carbon footprint. And we have to report on that. These three drivers have meant that we have simply had to find ways to manage with less staff, less budget, less office space. These are the conditions, ladies and gentlemen, that we are living right now. And despite, of course, the increasing demand on our services. How did we respond? Well, budget constraints meant that we couldn't respond by recruiting more and more in-house translators, more and more in-house resources. We couldn't respond either by cutting our output. We simply had to rewire and respond by adjusting and adopting 5 key measures: increase outsourcing, develop new ways of working, deploy a flexible and agile resource model, raise our attention in staff development and skill sets, pay more attention to the continuous learning and development and investment in our staff. That's 4th. And the 5th, targeted investment in data and technology. I emphasize the word targeted, and I will again come to explain what I mean by targeted investment in data and technology. Let me go through each one of these 5 a little bit more in detail, starting by outsourcing. Over the past few years, our rate of outsourcing in the Commission has increased from 23% a few years back, 3-4 years back, to 37% as we speak. That's more than 10 points, close to 15 points increase, percentage points increase in very few years in outsourcing. increased outsourcing has been crucial in enabling us to meet the higher demand with fewer staff. But outsourcing is not a silver bullet. There is still a significant administrative cost in managing outsourcing requests and evaluating the work we receive back from our subcontractors, because we still need to revise and review the work we receive to make sure that it is of the quality that we expect it to be. There is also a limit to what the freelance markets can support. There is not out there enough capacity in the freelance markets to support the demands of all the EU institutions, and I'm not referring only to the Commission. Also, a third factor that one needs to keep in mind about outsourcing is that it poses a challenge in maintaining internal competencies. The more you outsource, the more you lose in-house expertise, the more you lose in-house competence. And that needs to be kept in mind. And that's where we will need to find the balance. But, nevertheless, it has become a key part of our resources mix. It will remain as such, and works well to handle about 35 to 40% of our production. The second measure, we developed new ways of working. Well, as you all did. We are in the process of creating a greener workplace, but the COVID-19 pandemic has also prompted a shift towards less working time in the office and more working time at home, teleworking. Our experience so far is that hybrid working, part in person and part online, is the best approach. And that is the path we will follow. It allows for efficient and flexible working and ensures the sustainability of our output. It also empowers our translators and improves their work-life balance. We also save considerable resources on the budget for travel between sites, in-person events, and like I said before, office space. But we must remain attentive to safeguard something very crucial, and that's why I refer to balancing work with life at the same time, because we still need to safeguard our team cohesion, our corporate identity. And if people don't show up to work in the office, if people don't show up to network, don't show up to see colleagues, then we are risking our corporate identity and networking that is so essential to maintain and sustain working conditions as well. I said before that we have invested and we will continue to invest considerable time, effort, and money in data and technology. We have developed, we invested, and we developed a cutting-edge machine translation system. We call it e-translation, and I'm sure some of you have used it. That is on par, is at the same level with the best machine translation systems in the world, and not just Google Translate. Unlike the currently available commercial systems, it is owned by us. It is EU-owned. Why am I saying that? Because it ensures data security. Every translation that is processed through e-translation and the data, the words, the segments that we process are secure and safeguarded as opposed to other commercial systems. It is based at the same time on very stringent human checks. We have been investing for decades in translation memories to retrieve, segment, and reuse our linguistic data. Our efforts continue in the area of effective tagging of our data and enriching the metadata in our language repositories. That is our new approach, making sure that we have enough tagging on the data so that it can be retrieved easily and enrich the metadata surrounding the linguistic assets so the searches and retrievals can be much more efficient. I will again mention this. And of course, we co-manage, as many of you may know, a superb multi-stage verified multilingual terminology database which is called IADE. We do not stop upgrading at the same time and updating the toolbox of our translators with the latest CAT tools. So we are also making sure that's there. But that's a mature technology so far. That's why we need to target and look at other areas of technology to invest. The technology dividend from these direct applications, dividend meaning return on the investment that we have made on both applications and data, has generated significant savings over the past few years, and that answers the question, again I will repeat it later on, how were you able to deliver 2.7 million pages in 1 year with less staff? Because of investing and exploring the technology. But the dividend it has been paying over the past few years, it has almost reached 100% of its potential as we speak. There is proportionally marginal extra scope to make further savings over and above those that we have already achieved in the traditional IT investment in CAD tools and so on. Not a lot to be gained until we experience maybe another technological leap in that particular area. But for the moment, we have exploited it as much as we could. So we decided to restart the IT dividend by focusing on process modernization, improving workflows, by streamlining our working methods. So we're now focusing on workflows, streamline working processes, and AI-powered automation. This is the area that we are targeting now, and this is what I mean now with targeted investment, together with the investment we are doing, like I said before, on data management in terms of tagging and enrichment of metadata. And this is, in fact, exactly a targeted investment in technology. We have introduced a flexible, agile resource model, an important component in our rewiring effort. It has been the adjustment of our traditional resource model that many organizations and also in the language industry have for years been using. We have deployed this flexible and agile, flexible in the sense that we can adjust different elements of it as we see fit, but at the same time, agile meaning that we can do these adjustments quick, as it is necessary vis-a-vis the demand we get. So this flexible and agile resource model is composed of internal resources as a backbone of expertise that we so much need to keep in-house, officials, functionaries, officials, contract agents, so basic stem of experts that we keep in-house on the one hand, outsourcing, as I have explained, on the other hand, with partners, freelancers and subcontractors in the different markets. And of course, technology as a principal enabler in part of our resource model. So we have internal resources, we're using external resources, and the technology in the middle to facilitate the whole model. In fact, like I said, we were able to manage change by adopting this evolutionary and transformative approach in our resource management against a backdrop of continuous and increasing demand. The changing translation profession at the same time, increasing demand, changing translation profession, technological developments, new recruitment processes and streamlined working methods. All of that together we had to manage, we could manage by implementing this resource model. We have a particular structure, but I will not bore you with the structure of the model, but it is important that in order to move ahead, it's something that we needed to do. And in line with a new Commission human resources strategy, we will continue to do workforce analysis, vacancy rate control, outflow monitoring, meaning staff that either retires or leaves the Commission, together with a very fundamental activity, succession planning, knowledge transfer, and knowledge management. It is important that under these stringent human staff decreases, we need to, at the same time, make sure that those that leave, they leave, but they transmit their knowledge and expertise to those that stay. And to keep pace with these changes, we run regular, for example, digital skills assessments to make sure we identify and fill in any gaps in training of our staff. We offer advanced digital skills training and computational linguistic training. And we train our managers too. We have run courses as an extended management team on new ways of working, on managing hybrid teams, and in managing in full remote mode, for example. And this is a new management culture that we are trying to develop, which is not easy, especially when you are confronted with the possibilities of new people joining your service, but joining it under conditions of teleworking. So managers need to know how to induct, how to introduce new people, how to manage their teams in a remote way. And that is what we have also been investing. We need to continue to define ourselves as a learning organization because we firmly believe this is essential to the success of a service like DGT. Well-trained, specialized, and motivated staff is key for maintaining an indispensable translation service, ensuring that we deliver in an effective, in an efficient manner and timely manner, while preserving the quality, and I will come to the quality, of our service. So, how well have we been doing so far? First of all, rewiring is an ongoing process. It's not something that you start the morning and it finishes in the evening. It's not an on and off situation. It's a repetitive, ongoing process. There is no room for complacency, and we must always be on the lookout for new opportunities and ways to make sure that we still keep our eyes on the ball, because as you renovate, as you rewire, new things can come in play that you also need to consider in the timing, in the time frame you are actually doing this renovation and rewiring. But we are already far enough in our efforts to take stock on how our rewiring has gone so far. One thing's for sure, it hasn't been easy sailing. It's not an easy process. Fundamental change always raises issues and challenges that were not anticipated at the outset. We say you plan and somebody up there laughs. And that's exactly what can happen in situations like this when you are trying to renovate the organization. But we have registered already some wins. I have explained before that we put in place the right resource model. Instead of having a predominantly permanent staff, we now have a mix of permanent staff, temporary staff, contract agents, and the budget for outsourcing. We also, which, by the way, this has enabled us to contribute to the very scarce resources that the Commission has to address its political ambition. So what we have been doing, for better or worse for DGT, we have been contributing by delivering posts to policy departments and policy DGs so that they can proceed and handle the pandemic, the financial crisis, the energy crisis, and the commitment that our President Ursula von der Leyen made when she took office. So altogether, you can imagine the amount of work that the Commission has to deliver, and our contribution as DGT is by contributing with this post. But, of course, this doesn't go without a cost for us in terms of our staff. Now, I said we improved and increased outsourcing, and we work better now with our freelancers and our subcontractors. This way of working has forced us to introduce new methods of working with freelancers. We have just published a new call for tender to renew as from 2024 and for 2+1+1, 4 years, our contracts with freelancers. And the most important element is that we enable more and more direct communication between us as a customer and them as suppliers, and integrating them better as a resource in our model. We have built, like I said, a secure translation, which provides automatic translation for gisting and beyond that, for web portals. So a lot of the work that we had to do for translation on web portals now is done automatically with special widgets, web widgets that we have deployed and plugged in to the various portals that we have of the European Commission, including the Europa portal. And of course, the demand for e-translation is skyrocketed. I'm just going to give you that figure, more or less 70 million pages in 1 year, translated through e-translation, 70 million. And of course, we expanded the provision of teleworking, and like I mentioned, we have a continuous learning and development program for our staff because it's important. And all of these things are working so far. That's how we achieved higher production with fewer resources and still maintain the quality of our service. And again, the question may be, but how is that possible? In the project management world, those that were exposed to project management, we often say that there are 3 key areas that determine the success of a product, of a project: speed, cost, quality. And most of the time in a project, you basically can get substantial advancements and progress on 2 out of those 3 at any point in time. But in practical terms, and in our experience, focusing on quality actually allows you to make progress on the other 2 areas at the same time, of speed and cost. So let me go a bit more detail on the issue of quality, because it's crucial for our operations. What do I mean when I say that in these very difficult, high-pressure years, we safeguarded quality? Well, in DGT, we have a holistic approach to quality. We put in place a quality management framework based on a total quality management approach with different layers in our quality management framework and with guidelines to our translators how to achieve quality, whether the translation takes place in-house or whether the translation takes place outside DGT. I am sure that many of you are familiar with these approaches to quality. But we do work to ensure that quality is instilled into every stage of our operations, whether in-house or outside the house. Before our translation work starts, we provide continuous professional training, mentoring, and coaching for our staff. Before our translation starts, we provide editing of draft documents. Before they reach the translation stage, we go to our political DGs and we say, we can help you with editing. We have linguists that know how to do drafting and use the language perhaps in ways that a political drafter may not be so efficient or effective in doing it. So we provide editing services. We offer clear writing training for authors in the Commission. This is a big activity for us, and later on this year, in a couple of months, we have a big clear writing conference also addressed to all member states, with the participation of all member states. And this is very important to train the drafters, train the authors of publications to use clear language. At the same time, I repeat it, we ensure the state-of-the-art CAT technology and other language tools, and we continue to improve our data assets, linguistic data assets. And that's before our translation work starts. During our work, we deploy revision and review processes to check the quality of our translations. And after our work, we use feedback mechanisms to check the quality of our translations with our customers, with our clients, and we implement formal and structured correction procedures to rectify any errors that we find in translation. But when I said that we achieve high-quality translations, you might well ask me, how can you tell that? How can you judge that you are producing high-quality translations? Well, we recognize the need not to be complacent, and regularly look at 4 indicators, which we call service indicators, to ensure the quality of our translations. We use an indicator which we call correction rate. Correction rate is the proportion of translated documents that need subsequent corrections because an error is found. So we check, and if we receive a complaint, if we receive a request from the Council, from the Parliament, from the Member States saying that there is an error in the translation, we have a process to correct it, and we register it, and we keep the statistics on how many requests for corrections we get. And of course, the proportion is one index that we use to tell us whether we are delivering quality translations. The less the request for corrections, obviously, the better our quality. We also do internal, what we call ex-post control. So after we deliver translations, we have a network of staff, which we call quality managers and quality officers, for every language combination. You know, or maybe I didn't mention it, we have 24 language departments, 24 language combinations, and within each one of those language departments, we have people that are dealing specifically with quality. We call them quality officers, and twice a year, they perform an exercise where they take a sample of the various translations that we did, and on that sample, they do quality checks and discover whether it was at the level of quality expected. So that's what we call internal ex-post control checks, a little bit of an audit, an internal audit. The third one is a very important one for us. What do the customers think about the quality of our translations? The first 2 were very objective and empirical. The third one, customer surveys, one can say, it's a little bit subjective because it's based on what the customer feels, and if they like you, maybe they give you a 4 out of the 5. If they don't, maybe they give you a 2 out of the 5, even if your translation is good, but still, it's an indicator. And we do regular customer satisfaction surveys once every 2 years. But we also do on a yearly basis what we call pulse surveys, to take the pulse of a customer with specific questions on specific issues related to the quality of the translation. And then, of course, we also have the flagging quality effort, meaning that we actually flag whether documents that needed revision or review, we couldn't do it because of short deadlines, lack of resources, volume of the request. So if the specific translators dealing with this translation found themselves in a position that they were not satisfied with the quality control checks they did, they tick in the software a box, and therefore we can see and again get an indication of how we went about the quality control in DGT. All 4 of these values are very positive so far, and we keep monitoring them, and that's how we ensure that our quality is still fit for purpose and have remained positive even with the decreased resources. This is, for the most part, objective data, and we will keep using the subjectivity in assessing our work, but more important for us is the objectivity of the data we use to assess the quality of our work. The answer to the quality challenge is that we assess the need for quality control on smart risk assessment principles. These principles include assessing the relevance of the text, target audience, seniority and expertise of the translator, and the extent of availability and quality of language data for a specific domain, whether it's an energy file we're translating, or a trade, or competition, or a HR file. And as I have mentioned, there is already a great deal of inherent quality in our linguistic data assets, which support and feed our translation process. I would also point out that our translators are improving quality in 2 different ways. First, they check and improve computer-generated translations, as you probably all have experienced. But second, think about this. Their input is fed back into our language depositories, their input in terms of quality check, back into our language depositories and databases, which in turn are used by our systems to improve the quality of subsequent translations by using this deep machine learning technology that I talked about before. So we are translating, we are correcting, we are feeding it back into our data repositories, and the e-translation uses these corrected translations to produce better suggestions as machine translation. And that's the essence of neural technology. That's what I call smart rewiring, and that's what I call the use of technology in a targeted way to capture the work done and feed it back with better and better results coming out the next time around. Now, this has contributed to a substantial leap forward in the efficiency of our operations. But, ladies and gentlemen, you know as well as I do that the story doesn't end here. I said before that rewiring is an ongoing process. There is always more work to do, and there is always room for improvement. One has to acknowledge that so that one can move forward. And the external conditions and requirements are also constantly changing, and we need to be attentive to our working conditions, how they change, and be able to adjust to these changes. I would say that we have pretty much finished rewiring our traditional, like I said, translation technology. CAD tools are quite advanced, integrated within a suite of cutting-edge language technology applications that many of you may already have experienced. And from now on, like I said, there are marginal gains in that area in improving that part of our infrastructure. Of course, we will continue to fine-tune. We will continue to update and upgrade our CAD environment. But there is so much more scope to restart the technological dividend, like I said before, by investing in 2 supplementary areas that you see over there. First, in better language data management. This means improving our linguistic data assets in order to generate even better results for our translators. Better results from referring to e-translation engines, improvements to our knowledge databases, improving tagging and encompassing metadata to refine search and extraction results in our language repositories. So investment in language data management is the targeted investment in terms of technology that we are doing right now. Also, second but not less important, is streamlining our processes and workflows. And in DGT now, the focus is on combining and integrating the different isolated facets of technology that we have in terms of workflows and business processes in one single platform. Our ambition is to have a platform where the customer can submit a request for translation, black box for the customer. Customer doesn't need to know what we do, and spit it out in the language combinations that they need. Now, within that black box is what we're focusing on, which is the workflows. How we take that request, how we process it through our workflows and business processes in a single platform, unique, harmonized approach. And we have launched an ambitious, multi-annual digital transformation project, which we labeled eDGT. eDGT will be this end-to-end IT platform that covers all steps and tasks of DGT's core business and will manage the workflow for policy departments requesting translation, for our in-house translators and for our freelancers. The objective is to minimize administrative overheads because of the different non-integrated components that we have now, to reduce the complexity of existing applications, to increase stability and performance, and to reduce a very important cost that we all have, maintenance cost of our systems. As a cornerstone of DGT's digital evolution, eDGT, we hope, will increase our efficiency through these streamlined and harmonized working methods, smart integration of technologies, and AI-powered automation. I will speak in a bit as well. Well, before I wrap up, I would like to say a few words also about the broader dimension of the translation profession. DGT is a hub of translation across Europe and works with a range of international partners. We feel that it is important to continue to reach out to our counterparts and partners, to share knowledge, to spark ideas, and to help and learn from each other as we navigate through a constantly evolving professional context. We will continue to engage and work together with the industry, but also with the academia. I consider it essential, and I was saying this to the Vice Chancellor just a little bit now when we were discussing over here in the corner. It is essential that the two, industry and academia, are in close communication so that we can get graduates in translation that are equipped as much as possible to respond to the needs of the industry. So an important aspect of DGT's outreach work is to cooperate with the language industry. So we have put together an expert group, language industry expert group, codenamed LIND. And this expert group, these experts from throughout Europe, bring together know-how from different sides of the industry. And it's important for us to have this connection with the industry, as I have explained. The industry-wide cooperation also proves that despite very real challenges, the future of the translation profession remains with a constructive outlook. The expert group helps coordinate an annual survey of the language industry, which is for us a vital source of market intelligence for all organizations in our professions. In fact, only this Tuesday, I delivered the opening address for the latest European language industry survey, codenamed ELIS. And I'm sure some of you may have been present and listened to this, to the results of this survey. If not, it's still online. You can find it by searching ELIS. You can click and you can see, I think, online the presentation, and the results are so interesting. The 2023 language industry survey revealed considerable performance variations between individual countries and size segments, with smaller language service companies smaller language service companies, and independent professionals, freelance translators, reporting significantly poorer results than those expected. Although 2022 was described as a return to reality following the post-COVID rebound of 2021, we set high expectations for 2022, which were not met. So we had a revamp in the language industry in 2021 with double-digit growth, but not in 2022, even though in 2021 we said 2022 will be stronger. It wasn't. And we have to face the reality and be aware of that. But still, for 2023, market expectations, as indicated by the survey, remain moderately positive. I'm talking like a politician now. But industry, like I said, must be supported in a solid way by academia and well-qualified graduates in translation. That is why we will continue to facilitate and support the European Masters in Translation, or EMT network, which is playing an active role in adjusting translator training to market needs. I'm glad to say that the University of Alcalá is an esteemed member of the EMT network, and Carmen has been there for so many years, and thank you for all the contributions that the university and her personally is doing in this area. And actually, the University of Alcalá was one of the first universities in this network, and the contribution continues, and we're so proud that you have you here, and thank you for all the effort in this network. We have, as you see, a plethora of universities enrolled in this EMT network from almost all member states. There is a couple of member states that still do not have this label or brand of EMT that we offer. But this network of university programs is actually creating new links with other departments to enrich their curricula for students starting out in translation. Others are even going forward with more modern approaches, new teaching modules, such as e-learning courses on machine learning, micro degrees in digital competences, computational linguists, and modules. I've seen modules even simulating the work of a translation bureau. The EMT network also helps to make the profession more visible to customers of translation services, visible to language students, visible to the public who may use translations, and so on. This is important because we need to remain visible to be valued. We need to make sure that our value is transmitted to those that need to be made aware of. To a greater or lesser extent, with different degrees of scale and maturity, in fact, we are all engaged in rewiring, retrofitting, and remodeling our organizations. We share the same aspirations of achieving excellence in the profession, upholding and expanding our expertise, caring for the diversity and quality of our languages, and looking after our brilliant staff and students in translation studies. I have to wrap up because I also want to see if I can take any questions, and I think I'm running out of time. But as I come to this close and I skip a little bit some parts of my speech here, I would like to leave you with 3 main messages. The first is that underneath all the technical and operational changes, rewiring requires a change in attitude, culture, and management perspective. The purpose of translation remains exactly the same, but how we translate has changed radically the last few years. This change in our working methods requires our culture and management style must change too. We must embrace and integrate these changes not fight them. But we must also remain mindful and watchful and respond to the accompanying risks and challenges, such as the well-being of our staff. The second key takeaway that I wanted to mention is that, I mentioned it, rewiring is a continuous and iterative process. It requires patience and perseverance. For us in DGT, the next year or so will bring further changes and adaptations as we prepare to move even to new offices and identify criteria and ways to organize our new working environment and our new ways of working. The third key takeaway is that data and technology is crucial, but it's only the second most important asset in our service. The number one asset is people. They are the real bright sparks in our house. It is essential to have, like I said, quality data, but it is more important to have the right people with the right skills to make the right connections at the right time. It is essential to recruit good managers, as I said also before, open to change and who will engage in responsible leadership that balances innovation and duty of care for their staff. Lately, like I said, we see more and more the advances in AI tools that are designed to be an intermediary between the user and the internet in order to provide faster results. In the ELIS survey, you will, of course, encounter the positioning of those that participated in concepts like ChatGPT and derivatives of AI exploration. These are here to stay. They are here to be invested and progressed with, but they are here to enable us, not to replace us. It is our duty to keep abreast of these developments. We need to keep them in our radar screen, assess their potential, and also keep a close eye on the processes that ensure the quality, reliability, and transparency that give our language technology tools the unique value they provide. It is part of the European Union's vision for a human-centric, data-powered ecosystem that provides information we can all trust. Trust being the operative term here. They use approaches to ensure that AI works for people and protects fundamental rights in an ethical and acceptable manner. And that is what we call human-centric. In our house, in Digit Translation, we have what we call an AI network doing just that, exploring potential new cases, use cases, and experimenting with new technologies while ensuring that humans are involved in the process and check the quality and the reliability of the whole ecosystem. And you may ask, but what are you doing in translation with AI? I give you a couple of examples. We have a project which we call summarization. We're exploring AI technology to see whether we can take a text and through intelligent processing, produce a summary without a human intervention of the text. There is a lot of complication and complexity in the technology, but that's one example. We call it data summarization. Second example, we also mentioned it in the chat here with Carmen, Luis, and the Vice Chancellor, speech to text, text to speech, as another area where we are exploring. Third area, semantic similarity. We're trying to see how we can compare documents, or AI can help us compare documents and find semantic similarities so that we assure the quality of our terminology based on past translations. These are a few use cases when we say AI, so that it puts you in, gives you a perspective of what is this, excuse the phrase, sexy term that we all throw around, AI, as if it will solve all the problems. It's good to know what it can address, its limitations, but also its potential. Sorry again for going off script. In short, I can say that these are fascinating times for a fascinating profession. A profession that brings together the most human of all attributes, the power of language, with the most cutting-edge technology and data-driven science to spur growth and innovation. My wish and my approach as a Director-General in the largest institutional translation service of the world, as a public sector language service, is that we use data to power this next wave of innovation and technology and all the rest, and rewire our organizations. But we must always remember to put people at the center of everything that we do. Thank you so much for your patience and attention. Muchas gracias. Okay, if there are questions, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can moderate and I can answer. I don't know if there is a mic necessary or just. Oh, sorry.
Hello, there we are. Thank you for your talk, Christos. I have two questions, one to do with data, one to do with people. So the data one, since 2007, as you know, the DGT-TM has been shared on the basis that it's paid for by the European taxpayer, and it's formed the basic building blocks of MT systems for research groups like ours in DCU, but also by commercial companies worldwide, and therefore offers them a competitive advantage. Is there a consideration of how you will share the DGT-TM in future? So, for example, using the European language data space, which looks like moving towards a tiered cost model. That's the first question. The second one is to do with people. So, as you saw in the Ellis survey, there's some negativity to do with the AI hype. And in terms of the constant talk about technology and the need to do more with less within the DGT, how do you manage to maintain the morale and intrinsic motivation of your staff? Thank you.
I think those two questions are enough for today. No, just kidding. Okay, let me see. Regarding sharing the data that we have, because that's the bottom line there, how we share it. First of all, let me say that we offer the e-translation, not the TMs, like we have, which are customized for DGT, but we offer through the e-translation service a part of our TMs because they fit into the e-translation. So indirectly, the provision of e-translation facilitates access indirectly to our TM data. Of course, e-translation, as you know, is now available not only to universities, not only to public administrations. We open it up to NGOs. We open it up to small businesses as well. This is a program. E-translation is funded by the DEP program, the Digital Europe program. So all the funding actually comes from you guys. You are paying for it. So that's why we feel like we need to feed it back. We need to give the privilege to those that are paying, the taxpayers of Europe, to give them the benefit of using our data, not completely and not fully as we have it structured in DGT, but in a way that we believe it's suitable right now. Regarding, however, our cooperation with freelancers and subcontractors, we do give them packages sometimes, or not sometimes, always. We do give them also packages of results of data that we produce for a specific translation we ask them to translate, a specific document we ask them to translate, we do give them packages also with additional translation memory, not just generated by machine translation or e-translation. So that's the way we share it right now. You have to also understand that there are issues of data privacy, data security, and IP legislation behind it. So we need to be very careful in how much data we share and how we share it. But that is how we address the first part. Considerations for the future always are there, and we constantly try to think of ways that we can do further sharing, because our data is your data. So we always try to think of better ways, and within the context, of course, of legislation and all the rest of the challenges of this world today that has become very sensitive in data privacy. So within that context, we continue to reflect on how we can improve this offering of data. The second question is more difficult. Why is more difficult? I tried through my intervention here to demonstrate that it has not been easy for the staff of DGT to continue to deliver on this high demand and pressure we have. I can tell you that we count resources, of course, in the Commission based on the multi-annual financial framework that is agreed with the member states, and it's a 7-year cycle. So every 7 years, the Council, the member states, approve a budget for the EU, for us, for the Commission. As we speak now, there is a review for 2024. And without being critical, or trying not to be critical, the member states, the Council, has become very demanding on the budget allocation to the European Commission regarding a particular budget line that we have, which we call administrative and personnel expenses. For those that know a little bit, the structure of the multi-annual financial framework of the European Union is under a heading which is called Heading 7. That particular budget line has been pressured, I mentioned it discreetly in my speech, so much that DGT has suffered together with the rest of the Commission in the last MFF 350 posts. We reduced our staff in the last MFF by 350 people. And in this MFF, the last 2 years, because the new MFF started in 21-22, by another 180 posts. How did we manage? I explained. I tried to explain. How did you manage with 500 people less to deliver a production that was 5 years before 2 million and now is 2.7? By increasing the effort of the staff, by providing to them two things, technology and data, but also continuous learning and development, training them and retraining them. Motivation is key in this equation. And in a public administration, of course, is not like a private translation service bureau or any other company that at the end of the year, you go to a translator and you say, you translated this many pages, you get a bonus at the end of the year. We don't have that, unfortunately. So what we do is we reward our staff by allowing them to get engaged in other activities so that they have a broader context and richness of their work, not just translation. Outreach activities, Luis is here. In various member states, various activities, whether it's Translation Europe forums or Translation Europe workshops like this one, or it is events like maybe some of you have heard Juvenes Transladores, or all of these things. We involve translators, and what I'm saying is that we are enriching their working environment to keep them motivated by giving them this sense of contribution to the bigger context of multilingualism in Europe, not just through translations. And that's the best we can do, providing them the opportunities to develop their learning skills, develop their knowledge, including them in activities that give them the sense, in reality, not just a feeling, but in reality, of contributing to multilingualism through outreach activities. And that's the best we can do in keeping the motivation. I can say that DGT staff has had its ups and downs for obvious reasons, but I do believe that right now we are at a good place. Staff is also very much aware, like the rest of the world, of what is happening out there in the private sector, in the language industry. In the ELIS survey, those of you that look at it, you will see the issue of fees for freelancers, wages, how that is developing. So our staff also is sensible and has a perspective of what is happening out there vis-a-vis the working conditions the Commission provides. So altogether, this is how we keep our staff motivated. I hope I wasn't too long, but I wanted to give you the whole context. Thank you for your questions. Thank you.